Today I'm going to let you in on my secrets on making Atayef. Now, Atayef is a special dessert that we eat in the Arab world, especially during the time of Ramadan, the fasting month. It's basically a crepe that is filled with either cheese or nuts, and the best Atayef is the one that is going to be crispy on the outside, pillowy in the middle. Cheese melts, and of course it's immersed in a beautiful rose syrup. So I'm going to show you all my secrets and tips on how to get the crispiest, most delicious Atayef. The crepe part of making Atayef is really very simple. I'm going to start by putting in 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, okay? And then I'm going to add in 2 heaping spoons, and I've already pre-measured it to, it is equal to 1 tablespoon. That's sugar. And then I'm going to put in 1 teaspoon of instant active dry yeast. So this is going to help create the bubbles that are really the key to making these particular crepes. This is a pinch of salt that goes inside. I'm just going to stir these together. Okay, and then I add in my lukewarm water. And this is what's going to help, of course, the yeast wake up, because it's just the right temperature for the bacteria to start doing its job. Now I'm mixing it here using a whisk, but I'm not trying to incorporate air. I'm not trying to fluff anything up. I'm just trying to get everything dissolved equally. As soon as this is mixed thoroughly, I'm going to add in the last ingredient, and that's a teaspoon of baking soda. Okay, so that goes inside. All right, and then I mix. Now, inside my bowl, okay, what you see here, it looks like a very thin, okay, a thin batter. It'll thicken as it sits, okay, and the consistency that we're looking for at the end after it rests is almost a pouring cream consistency. I just use a bowl or a plate and I cover it, leave it for 30 minutes to allow the yeast to do its work, okay, and then in the time that it's resting, I'm going to make all the fillings for my Atayef. Now there are traditional fillings that are used in Atayef. The first one is walnuts. Now I didn't have any walnuts, I had pecans, which are just as good if not better. I actually prefer pecans. Make sure that you lightly toast them, put them on a shallow sheet and put them in the oven for a couple of minutes till you smell them and they get nice and sweet, and remove them cool and then chop. And I've chopped them so that they are not very, very fine, they're still quite coarse. So when you bite into the Atayef, you want to actually bite into the nut. Now what I add to these nuts is some sugar. Okay, not too much, because remember, the Atayef itself is going to be doused in this beautiful syrup, so it's going to get its sweetness from the syrup. And then I flavor it with 2 spices, and this is cinnamon, okay. This is cardamom. This is the flavor of the Arab world. Now, in addition to this, I also zest a little bit of orange, because cinnamon and cardamom and orange goes so beautifully together as a flavor, and I just like that nice burst of citrus flavor going through with the nuts. It really, really is nice. If you don't want, of course, you can take it out. Here in this little bowl, I have orange blossom water, so it kind of goes with the flavors of the orange, and it's there for flavor, and it's also there to help moisten the mixture. And that's all there is to that. Now I have the cheese mixture. Now here I've mixed 3 different kinds of cheeses. I've got Akkawi cheese, which is it's a soft, unripened Arabic cheese that is originally from Akka, Palestine. That's why it's called Akkawi. And there's also some ricotta cheese that I've put in a muslin cloth, and I've tried to squeeze out as much water as possible. So you're trying to eliminate a lot of the liquid, because you don't want water inside these crepes, because you want them to fry up nice and crisp and not get soggy. And then I've also shredded in a little bit of mozzarella cheese. There's nothing in here that's low fat or no fat. Everything is pure 100% full-fat cheese. That's flavor, and that's what you need. So they've all been combined. And the last flavor that I put in, and I've mixed in just a little bit of sugar as well, just maybe a spoon or two in this mixture. And then the last flavor that is optional that I like to add, and I also have it in spray form. And you wonder what it is. No, it's not hairspray, it's actually rosewater. So very lightly, I'm going to spray just that much, no more. You have to be careful with rosewater and orange blossom water, because if you put a little bit, it's amazing and delightful. If you put too much, then it tastes like soap, and that's not where we want to go. And this is the filling that I have added to the Atayef that I love, and it's really sort of, it's an homage to my Canadianness. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by creating a caramel to cook my apples. So it is an apple filling. So in my saucepan here, I'm going to put in some nice brown sugar, and also a very Canadian ingredient, and that is maple syrup. Okay, that's real maple syrup. So I'm going to add it to my brown sugar. And to balance all that sweetness, salt. Okay. And then I like to add just a little bit of water to get things started. I'm going to turn up the heat and just start mixing away. So this is basically making a caramel, so that the apples have to cook in something. So why not swim in a caramel? Now the flavor that I like to add here, cardamom. Now you could put cinnamon, certainly, but I like to put cardamom because, again, it's that Arabic flavor that I adore, and it goes really nice with apples. All right, so now it's starting to bubble, and before it bubbles too much and turns into a hard caramel, which is not what I'm after here, I'm going to add in the apples that I have already chopped up into cubes. Okay, I peeled them, and I have 2 different apples in here. I'm just going to turn down the heat a little bit. All right, so just keep stirring away, and you do have to watch it. And what we're after is actually cooking the apples so that they are al dente. You don't want to cook them to the point where they turn into mush. So now the apples are perfect. They are al dente. So now what I have to do is I'm going to remove them from the liquid and just put them in a strainer. So the liquid that is still left here, now I'm going to add to it some vanilla, just added flavor. And then I'm going to put in some butter. And then I have here some cornstarch, and that's going to actually help thicken this. And just mix away till it turns creamy. And now I will introduce the apples back into saucepan. Okay, and blend them together. And now I have the perfect filling. The dough has been resting for a little bit more than half an hour, and I just want to show you the consistency of this batter. Okay, it really is. You see, it's like thick pouring cream. I've got a 1/4 cup measure, which is the perfect measure for the size that I want. Now here, my surface is already preheated on medium heat, and this is a non-stick surface, and it's perfect for making pancakes and, of course, making Atayef. Now this is the size I like. You basically pour, and you notice I didn't put any oil, no butter, okay? None whatsoever, and it's not going to stick, but we're not going to flip them. So it's going to cook only on one side. Now, you notice all the bubbles? That's exactly what we're looking for. And then if you flip it over, you see that it's nice and caramelized, and this is completely finished. So I'm just waiting for the bubbles to disappear and dry, and this is exactly what you get, okay? That is a perfect Atayef. I allow them to cool on this towel. I have all my fillings ready. I have a plate, and I have my Atayef that we baked together, you saw. And now they are nice and cool and completely cooked. They're not raw, and now we have to fill them. And now you'll see why it is that we didn't flip. So I'm going to start with my pecan filling here. So I'm going to put in just enough to fill it generously, but don't overfill it and don't underfill it, okay? It has to be just the right amount that you're able to close it. And then I start by pressing gently but firmly, okay, on the edges of the crepe. And the reason why we didn't flip it is because we wanted to keep this area moist so that you're able to seal the filling inside. And this is what the Atayef looks like when it's done, okay? It's that simple. So that's one walnut one. And here is my Canadian Arab one with the apple. And I tell you, when I'm smelling this dough, and all I can remember is that this is the smell of Ramadan. This is the smell of, you know, my mother's kitchen when she would make this, and we'd all stand beside her eagerly waiting for the moment when she starts to bake these or fry them, and we get to eat them. I have my simple syrup ready. My oil is already at the right temperature, between 340 and 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I have my rack set up so that it's seamless and it's an assembly line. All right, so I'm going to start frying up some of the cheese ones. They just happen to be my favorite. So as you place them into the oil, very carefully, okay, and then immediately the sizzling begins. All right, so it doesn't take very long. I'm just going to check on the temperature here. Yep, everything is good. It doesn't take very long for the Atayef to start crisping up. You don't want your oil to be excessively hot, and what we're looking for here is the Atayef for sure to get nice and crisp on the outside. There's nothing to cook in the middle, so we just want texture. We want crunch. Okay, I'm happy with these, with the color and the crispness. So I'm going to, with a slotted spoon, pick up my Atayef, and my syrup awaits. So they go immediately into their little spa, and then I'm not going to leave them in there for very long, just enough that they absorb a little bit of the syrup, okay, and then immediately I take them to the cake rack here, and any excess syrup is going to fall, and I'm just left with a crispy exterior. And oh my God, I can't wait to bite into these. They look so good. I've done cheese and walnut. Now these are the apple ones that aren't going to, they're going to be fried in the exact same way. It smells like apple pie in my house right now. It's yummy. Okay, I'm just going to remove them and put them on the tray without the syrup first. So these are the three, and here I have a plate that already has sugar and cardamom in it. All right, and I just put them on here, and then with this I just sprinkle on more sugar for the top. So this is the best part. This is how you eat Atayef. You don't need a fork and you don't need a knife. You just grab one and bite. That is so delicious. It actually reminds me of knafi, which is another fabulous dessert that is knafi nablsi, particularly the Palestinian version. It tastes exactly like it. The syrup, and then of course the crispy dough. It's nice and crunchy, and the cheese inside is melting. And because I left a little bit of that salt in it, so you've got the saltiness that really complements the sweetness, so it's not overly sweet. And now I'm going to try my Canadian version. All right, that's here. Oh my God, that is just so yummy. Now, maybe I have to change now. I told you cheese was my favorite. Maybe apple is going to be my favorite. And I hope you might give this a try and start new traditions in your kitchen. And yes, it tastes best during the month of Ramadan because these are traditional desserts that we expect to eat during this time. But what's stopping you from making these any time of the year? They're really, really nice. So until then, we'll see you next time. Bye.